On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Dopesmoker, also known as Jerusalem, by Sleep. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it.
Yes.
And somehow, after 301 episodes, I guess not all of those with the two of us, but most of them, the vast majority, somehow, despite having talked about other albums by this band, at least one,
Yes.
despite having talked about other doom metal albums that are a single track that exceed this in length, we somehow have never directly talked about Dopesmoker.
Right.
Which is
Not on here.
yeah, not on here. And it's the Stoner Doom album.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's the one. It's the pinnacle of the genre in many ways.
And this came out after they were done as a band.
Yeah, which we'll talk about the story surrounding this album because it's kind of a fun story. But we'll talk more about that. We'll talk about Sleep a little bit later on. First, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I bought a car.
Great. Yeah, you bought a car. You got rid of the cursed Volkswagen.
I didn't get rid of it. I still own that technically for the moment.
You didn't trade it in.
Oh,
Well, I don't know if that you could, considering it was broken.
I have a car. It doesn't run. Will you take it as a trade?
What do you give me for it?
It's by the way,
What do you give me for the scrap?
I know. Yeah, I know you guys got a repair department, and how much you here at Honda love to fix Volkswagens. So I can trade this in for you.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, you got a Honda CR
HRV.
HRV. That's right.
Which I told my teenager, and he's like, "You have an AIDS car?" HRV.
Good old HRV.
Yeah.
You know, HRV AIDS.
Yeah.
That's what Magic Johnson has, right? He has HRV.
HHRV.
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 What does that stand for? So AARP. I don't actually know what AARP stands for.
American Association of Retired People.
Okay, what does HHRP stand for?
Health and Human Roofie Plans. I don't know.
Oh, yes. My favorite organization, Health and Human Roofie Plans. What services do they provide?
Well,
I mean, I feel like I can assume one of them. Health, obviously.
right. They'll give you a check over and say, do you think you're ready? Like, as in your breathing, your circulatory system. Are you good with respiratory stuff?
Yeah.
To where you can have sex with an unconscious woman.
Oh no. Oh God. What if it's nothing nefarious? What if they're just really misguided in giving you roofies as a sleep aid?
Doc, I'm having a hard time nodding off at night.
I can't get to sleep. Well, here, have some roofies. You'll fall asleep.
Yeah, you definitely fall asleep.
Anyway,
I woke up and my dick hurt.
We were talking about how you bought a car.
I did buy a car.
How are you liking your car so far?
I love this car.
It looks very nice.
It's a pretty car. It's got it doesn't have, it has that screen over here, but it's not a highly involved screen.
It's not a huge Tesla touchpad.
Right. No, it's basically your radio and your backup camera and things of that nature. But
your aircon and everything is still buttons and knobs and dials.
Yes.
Good.
I've still got all. In fact, that's what I prefer.
Yeah. We've discussed this between the two of us many times about how it's bullshit that car manufacturers keep on removing buttons.
Right. And make you want to touch a giant iPad.
Yeah.
Instead, because that's not going to cause lots of accidents.
I mean, I guess you can develop muscle memory for anything, but developing the muscle memory to get there in the first place is going to be dangerous.
Right.
And like, I think it's just so much better in that scenario, especially have something physical that you can touch that you can go, oh, I know I can feel this button with my finger and I don't need to look at it.
Now, here's what I just got because we went to Bismarck yesterday. And on the way down there, I realized that it has lane assist and it has cruise control. So technically, if I wanted to turn on the lane assist and cruise control, I could look at a big iPad all day long.
I mean, to be fair, we do live in North Dakota. So if you're driving any considerable distance, it's not the most unsafe thing in the world to do something like that. Like, there are very significant distances on highways in this state where you can drive in a straight line for a very long time. So if your car has some software to help you drive in a safe a straight line, I mean, I won't recommend it. In fact, I shouldn't recommend it. And again, I won't, and I'm not. But maybe. I'm glad that you finally got rid of that Volkswagen, because it seemed like it gave you nothing but trouble.
Yeah, this has got all-wheel drive.
It gave you a terrible movie. Where Chevy Chase is being tortured by a man with a penis for a nose. Why can't I remember the director, writer / star of that film? What is his name? He has a Crystal Skull vodka. He was in Ghostbusters, and he's crazy.
Was that movie 43?
No, this is the
no.
He was in Ghostbusters. He's one of the 4 guys in Ghostbusters.
Oh, Ivan Reitman?
No. Give me a second.
No, he
directed Nothing But Trouble, is what I'm saying.
Nothing But Trouble. Oh, fuck, I forgot about that.
That's what I was referencing.
I forgot about that movie. You're talking about Harold Ramis?
No. I'm getting there. Dan Aykroyd, fuck's sake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd's kind of crazy.
He is crazy. Did you ever hear the original plot of Ghostbusters?
Yeah. It was apparently a fucking gigantic book. That the rest of the team went, all right, Dan, we're going to have to whittle this down to the nub of some good ideas and good jokes, and turn it into a screenplay for a movie, Dan.
Because that's not what we have right here.
It's like Dan Aykroyd is like a more kooky version of George Lucas. Where George Lucas always has tons and tons and tons of crazy ideas. That if a good movie is to be made out of it, then get whittled down into the best of them and iterated on. That's what happened with the original 3 films. And then George got too rich and powerful, and no one could tell him no anymore.
We're gonna have this character. His name is gonna be Jar Jar.
I want Jar Jar to be in all 3 of the movies. Jar Jar is gonna be a more important character than we've had before. He's funny.
You remember his speech pattern, right?
I don't think mine is a very good impression, but
don't, because if you really think about what that speech pattern is.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah. That always kind of bothered me. I'm like, holy what?
Oh, you're talking about Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about George Lucas.
No, I was talking about Jar Jar Binks. You got George Lucas. You got that.
Yeah, I was confused as for why you were like, the way George Lucas talks. I was like, what's wrong with the way George Lucas talks? Other than it's kind of, sounds kind of funny. But no, no, Jar Jar Binks definitely sounds like a racist caricature.
Yeah.
A lot of creatures in episode 1 sound like racist caricatures. The Nemoidians sound like a racist Japanese caricature. Like, fucking Watto is a horrible anti-Semitic caricature. It just kind of, it just sort of, I don't know what was going on. with George why he made those characters that way. Again, because no one told him no. I'm sure there were people who were like, this feels kind of racist. Yeah. But it was 1999.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, no, just don't tell George. It's fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But yeah. Speaking of things that we have bought, despite having been a gun nerd for most of my life, I have never, with my own money, purchased a firearm until today.
Nice. When does it get here?
Saturday or Monday.
That's fast, actually.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where the distributor was based. I remember when I was looking online to see like places that sold this, which may be one of the places. There was a place in Minnesota that had the exact like model that I was looking for. So it might be coming from them. I don't know. But
by the way, it's getting here like a speeding bullet.
Yeah, no, it's getting here real quick. So I bought a Chiappa Rhino, which is a 357 Magnum revolver, which is nice. 357s are nice because if you don't want to shoot something that has a whole lot of snort, then you can just load 38 Special into it, which is a lot softer shooting.
Yeah. Didn't you only have to hold on loosely?
You only had to hold on loosely.
But don't let go.
But don't let go.
Yeah.
What are some other 38 Special songs? Because I can't think of any right now.
You can fire that gun like a wild-eyed Southern boy.
There we go. One more. Come on.
But make sure you fire that gun away from you because you wouldn't want one of those bullets to get caught up in you.
Hey, you did it! Congratulations! Yeah. You get a gold sticker.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I don't have any, but I'll get you. I owe you a gold sticker.
Okay. When next time you have a supply of gold stickers,
I'll let you know. Yeah, 357 Magnum and 38 Special.
Right, it's a Chiappa Rhino. So, and what makes it that? Why did it get its name?
It kind of looks like a rhino.
It does kind of.
It's the main reason. Part of it actually is one of the owners of the company that makes it. His first name is Reno. His name is Reno Chiappa because it's an Italian company.
Sure.
But also it does look a little bit like a rhino.
Right. Because the barrel is in the middle of the gun.
The bottom
of the gun. Oh, right.
Because it fires, unlike the vast majority of revolvers ever made, it fires from the bottom cylinder instead of the top cylinder.
Yeah.
Which is nice because it makes the recoil much flatter is the term I want to use, where it has a lot less muzzle flip.
It goes back into you rather than pops up over your shoulder.
Exactly. Which when you're shooting, hotter ammunition like 357 or something like that, things can have a fair amount of muzzle flip, especially if you're not a big brawny dude who's got the world's strongest wrists, which I certainly am not.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I got it in my head to buy one of these or like to look at it because I was playing Helldivers 2 and there's a revolver in the game that looks a lot like it's clearly inspired by the Rhino. And it's just sort of got in my head of like, you're such a big like fan of guns and gun designs and whatnot. Why don't you actually get something and like there are so many guns that I've looked at over the years and go like, wow, that would be cool. I'd kind of like to buy that. And I don't need that. I don't really, and I still don't need it. But I kind of was like, you know what? If I'm going to buy a single gun, which I don't know if that's going to be the case for me, probably not. But it's like if I'm going to buy a single gun, I might as well get something that's a little unique, a little different, a little weird, and really, really appeals to me and has a lot of cool factor. Because this is some straight up space cowboy shit. Like it's used in a lot of like science fiction movies. And if there's like a game that's supposed to take place in the near future or even the far future, and they're like, we want a futuristic looking revolver, they literally just, you don't even have to do anything to the Rhino. You don't have to put any space greeblies on it. It looks like it belongs. I feel like if they were making Firefly today, they wouldn't have put all of those like steampunk looking bits onto Mal's gun. They would have just given him a Rhino and called it a day. But and that's something that I was thinking about. I was like, this is like, at least in feeling, about the closest thing to Malcolm Reynolds's revolver that you can get without making a replica. Although I don't think, with the bits and bobs that are attached to that, I don't think it's actually fireable. But that's one of my favorite like science fiction guns. Even though it's barely a science fiction gun, it's a science fiction world with a bunch of just like normal looking guns with a couple space bits attached to them, which I love. It's been way too long since I've rewatched Firefly.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take very long.
No, it doesn't. Do you remember one year? I think it was Netflix that did it.
Yeah. Oh, this has happened multiple times.
Has that multiple times?
Where it's like,
just for a split second, you're like, oh.
There will be a notification that says new season. And it's usually why that happens is it has come and gone on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And so, you might watch it once and then, in between watching it then and the next time you watch it, it might have come and gone. It might have like gone away and then come back. And so Netflix, is like, hey, your algorithm clearly suggests you're interested in this. Here's a promotion for the new season, when it's just like, no, we put this back on our platform.
Right.
And here you go.
It's new again to us. But they did do it 1 year, at least 1 year, on April 1st.
Yeah, I believe I remember that.
Yeah. Bastards.
Supposedly they're doing something.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I heard that a number of years ago, though. I thought there was some Disney Plus thing maybe that was going to happen with Firefly, but I don't remember hearing anything more about that, or if their plans for that fell through. I don't know what actually came of that, or if that's in production hell. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the cast was such a huge thing. If they're trying to recast or something, like, please don't.
Well, I don't. Yeah, if they recast it, I would have, like, unless it is a show that's just about a different crew in the verse that's just coincidentally also flying a Firefly.
Right.
Then,
maybe they're in a Dragonfly. They would just call this the new series.
Yeah. Well, it would be a Firefly class ship or whatever with a different name.
Uh-huh.
But what I remember hearing is that it was the original cast, at least those of them whose characters are still alive, which I guess out of the two from that crew, the only two characters that died were Wash and the Preacher.
Yeah.
And the Preacher's actor's dead.
Yeah. So no need to bring him back.
And Wash is also dead.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk is fine though, as far as I know.
Alan Tudyk still alive. But I have to imagine everyone else in that cast would be willing to come back.
Right.
If the money and the timing is right, I guess, because it's just how Hollywood is.
Because I follow. My God, what is?
Which one?
I forgot the mechanic.
Jules Stiett.
Thank you, Jules. I follow Jules on. Weird to say.
there is a different Jules in your life.
Yeah.
Just Jewel.
Yeah, Jewel State, right?
Rather than Jules, short for Juliana, it's Jewel.
Yeah,
like something shiny.
She did that song "Hands." She's from Alaska.
Yeah, she lived in a car for a time when she was a kid.
No, she puts on a lot of content on her TikToks where it's hey, you remember this show that I was on?
She was in a lot of shows.
But it's usually Firefly.
It's usually Firefly.
Yeah, it's like she's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
she's no schlub. She's acted quite a bit, but yeah, everybody loves Firefly.
Yeah. So. See, here's my thing. So, like, I think I caught an episode or two of Firefly growing up, and I always liked it.
Have you haven't watched the whole series?
No, I've watched the whole series. I was building up to a thing.
All right.
I watched an episode or two of Firefly when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then at some point when I was a teenager, I watched the whole series front to back.
Right.
And fell in love with it. But for me, the main thing that I know Jules Stiett from is, and I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly.
Really?
It's spelled like it should be said that way, but I don't know.
I think I've heard State.
State? Yeah. That also makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing I remember her from most is Stargate Atlantis.
Sure.
She played,
I never watched that show.
Yeah, in the last half of the show, she was the head doctor of the expedition.
I tried watching the Stargate
SG-1.
Yeah, Stargate. Yeah, the SG-1.
The early seasons of SG-1 have not aged well.
No, yeah, I've watched them and I'm like, I can't. This is difficult watching right here.
They have not aged particularly well.
No, they haven't.
And there's so much of that show that it's hard to like stick it out and kind of get to the good stuff.
Right.
Because it was back in the time where you could have a TV show and you'd make like 20 episodes in a season instead of like 8.
Yeah, well, because TV show was on a thing called the TV.
Television.
Yeah, the television. So and that's what a season of TV is, 20 to 24 episodes. That's how the TV show 24 got to be.
Yeah.
Because hey, there's 24 hours in a day. Episode. Oh yeah, let's do that. We'll have one day in a season.
And in this season, he's going to do a lot of heroin. Or was it cocaine? I don't remember.
Cocaine, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was cocaine. Stargate Atlantis, I think, because it starts later on. Stargate Atlantis starts, I think, after like season 5 of SG-1. So SG-1 had hit in its stride, and the people behind the show and the franchise at that point kind of knew more what they were doing, more experienced showrunners. The way I've always heard it described, which to my memory it sort of fits, is SG-1 has higher highs, but also has lower lows. Yeah. And Stargate Atlantis is a more consistently enjoyable show. It also is at least for me, for some people, it's some very latecomer version of Baywatch that was their first exposure to him. But for most nerds like me, that's what put Jason Momoa on the map, was Stargate Atlantis. He came into the show with a massive set of dreads that he chopped off partway through the show for medical reasons, because they were so heavy they were giving him neck problems. But they then made a wig. I think they made a wig from his actual dreads, because you can do that. But you can always, the wig never really looked very good. You could always kind of tell it was a wig, but at least he could take that off when they were done filming.
Well, so here's the guy I am. The first time I ever saw Jason Momoa, he was Dothraki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's most people.
Yeah.
I think if you were someone who was watching a lot of Sci-Fi Channel in the mid 2000s, right, then it's Stargate Atlantis. You're like, hey, it's Ronan Dex.
I was busy fucking.
Yeah. I was busy being 11. The gun that his character used in that show is also another thing that was on my mind, like looking at the Rhino and thinking about purchasing it, because he has what's called a particle magnum, which is basically like a huge like energy revolver. It makes a really cool sound, and it's like ludicrously powerful.
Nice.
And another one of my favorite like science fiction guns growing up is the particle magnum. It's fucking cool. It became a running joke in the show that people who encountered him for the first time and he shot the gun in front of him, that they go, I gotta get me one of those. I want that. And at one point, Teal'c from Stargate SG-1 shows up and meets Ronan, and they have like an episode where they are these two stoic badasses back to back. And Teal'c goes, I would very much desire to have a weapon such as that. And then Ronan goes, get in line.
And then does he go, boy?
Boy. Teal'c,
right,
played by Christopher Judge, who plays Kratos in God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok.
Yes.
Which that always made me very happy.
Yes.
I'm happy. Like there are some of these shows, some of these like TV shows I grew up with where I'm always very pleased whenever I see actors from them in other things, because I'm like, they're still working.
Yeah.
They haven't like,
they're like family to me and they still get a job.
they haven't, their life hasn't spiraled out of control or something.
They show up at your apartment. Hey,
I need a place to stay.
can I crash here for a bit?
Fucking Michael Shanks just shows up at my apartment, just like, hey,
Hey man, you got a couple of bucks.
what? Michael Shanks?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
It's been rough.
Canadian actor Michael Shanks.
Yeah.
Which I won't talk about Stargate for too much longer.
Okay.
But I promise. But it is something that is funny in retrospect, because they hired Michael Shanks to play Daniel Jackson, who was played by
James Spader.
James Spader in the movie.
Right.
And James Spader, fits the type of being, kind of at least in the movie, he physically fits the type of like, kind of a reedy sort of, skinny nerd type.
Kind of nervous.
And Michael Shanks definitely nails the character, but they had to go through quite a lot of effort and like make him wear nothing but baggy clothes to hide the fact that he was absolutely jacked. And eventually, as the show goes on and like Daniel kind of becomes more of a militant character and sort of becomes much less averse to conflict, eventually they stop trying to hide it and eventually like start have him wearing better fitting clothes or like a few shirtless scenes. It's like, oh shit, Michael Shanks is jacked as fuck. It's like, and he always was. They just hit it because he just wasn't the physical type, which I feel like they didn't necessarily need to, because they introduce his character like having spent a couple years on this primitive like desert planet where he could have gotten beefed up in that time.
He might have worked out.
He might have worked out.
Didn't have the internet, so
all he could do was work out. But anyway, that's my that's my Stargate soapbox.
There you go.
Let's talk about Dopesmoker by Sleep. So if you don't know, Sleep is an American stoner doom band.
From Sacramento.
Not
Sacramento. San Jose. Sorry.
San Jose.
San Jose, not Sacramento.
Whoops, I had their page pulled up, I think, and then I got off it somehow on my phone. But yeah, they are from California.
They are.
They started out, let's see, when did Sleep start making music? In about 1990, gained a fair amount of notoriety with their first couple of releases, particularly Sleep's Holy Mountain in 1992, which I've always been tickled by the fact that the full title of the album is Sleep's Holy Mountain. It's not Holy Mountain by Sleep. It's Sleep's Holy Mountain by Sleep.
Right. Yes.
You don't see bands doing that most of the time, which tickles me a little bit.
Is that the album Dragonaut was on? What's
no, Dragonaut is on their newest album. No, their newest album, I think.
No, I remember seeing that when I was 20 years old, the video.
Okay, you might be. Maybe they did a new version of it on the Sciences.
Maybe.
I think the reason why I might be thinking that is because there is an astronaut on the cover of the Sciences. That's probably what's happening. You are probably correct.
I think that was the first Sleep song I ever heard.
And how long was that one?
How long was that one? It's a regular length song.
A regular length song.
And therefore was able to be played on the music televisions.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were capable of doing that.
Yes.
So if you don't know, the album Dopesmoker is in the tradition of a few other doom metal tracks, actually a single song.
Right.
It is on the proper releases, I guess one might call them, 63 minutes and 36 seconds long.
Right.
The versions of this that are the closest to what they recorded in studio, because there is a bit of a story to what happened with this album and how it got released. So they got a fair bit of notoriety from Sleep's Holy Mountain. They were on Earache at the time. They start touring, they start writing this, and from the beginning they were kind of like, I think this album's going to be one song. And it started getting slower and weirder. And eventually they decided to sign up with London Records. And they were apparently promised by the person who signed them like complete artistic freedom and, you know, more money than they were going to get with other labels. And very quickly after they signed and started working on the album, that guy left the company.
Oh, no.
And the people who took over for him at the label apparently were not as keen on letting them do precisely what it was they wanted to do. They used up a lot of the money that they were given pretty quickly because none of them had any fucking money. So they needed like cover debt from buying gear and shit like that. You know, although to be fair, knowing Sleep, they probably weren't exactly buying like reasonable gear.
Right.
They were probably buying, this incredibly rare and esoteric amp that Tony Iommi once touched.
Yeah.
So they start working on it. They had to record it in a number of different sessions, primarily because the reel-to-reel tapes that they had only lasted 22 minutes. So they couldn't record the whole thing in one go. It took a lot of practicing for what they were able to record in one go. They eventually kind of got it all together, sent it off to the record company, and the record company went, "What the fuck is this? No, we're not releasing that, but we gave you a whole bunch of money and this is what you send us. So fuck, we're going to have one of our guys chop it up into a couple pieces and then we'll release that." And then the band was like, "No, you're fucking not." So there was like a deadlock between the band and the record label, and the release just died. And it would have faded into nothing if a couple of people hadn't bootlegged it. Early on, the only way to listen to this album was via bootlegs. And there were a couple of different versions, one of which is about 10 minutes shorter than the full 63-minute release. There are a couple of versions that are indeed split up into a couple songs. The original release was called Jerusalem rather than Dopesmoker, both of which were like names used internally while they were working on it. The band also apparently has some mixed feelings about whether or not it should have been released at all by bootleggers.
Yeah.
The band, by the way, is a three-piece consisting of Al Cisneros, Matt Pike, and
a drummer,
Chris Hackius.
Yes.
Apparently Matt Pike was like, "We put a lot of work into this. It would be a real fucking shame if no one ever heard it." Whereas apparently Al thought it was, it never got released, so maybe it wasn't meant to see the light of day. But he, I think, has changed his tune at least a little bit. One kind of has to when, despite the fact that your band broke up in the aftermath of this non-release, it became the song or the album, the track that really solidified Sleep as titans of the genre.
Right.
Like if they had released Volume 1 and Sleep's Holy Mountain and then left it at that, they'd be remembered.
Sure.
Like those are well-known albums that are highly regarded in their own right. But Dopesmoker, I think, is the thing that everyone will for all time remember them for.
Yep.
It made them, anyone who listens to doom metal or anyone who's interested in listening to doom metal and you search doom metal albums, the first thing that you'll see from Sleep, probably one of the first things you'll find on that first page or whatever result Google gives you is going to be the cover art of Dopesmoker. Although who knows which one it will be because there are multiple cover arts. the thing that had this album pop into my head last week while we were talking is we briefly talked about Dune, and the most well-known cover art for Dopesmoker at this point is very evocative of Dune. You got a bunch of guys wearing, these big, big robes, walking through a desert landscape with kind of an alien-looking camel thing. And they're walking in this caravan, and they've got like these hoses and backpacks that are clearly linked to like space bongs that are feeding them weed smoke directly into their systems. And those guys, at least according to the fan base, those are the Weedians.
Those are the Weedians, right?
Yeah, referenced in the song, which this song's lyrics are weird.
They're definitely weird, yeah.
The best way I could describe it, there's not really a cohesive story, but the way that I will probably describe it from now on is imagine the book of Exodus, but all of the future people of Israel were gigantic stoners, and also weed Jesus was going to be a thing eventually. Like, I guess just the whole Old Testament, not even the book of Exodus. Just imagine the Old Testament, but everyone is a space stoner. Right. And there's like references to all kinds of like Old Testament stuff in the Middle East in general, but through the lens of, and with plenty of references to different weed culture things. In the first 25 minutes of the song, the only lyrics you'll hear for the most part are drop out of life, bong in hand, follow the smoke to the riff-filled land. Eventually there are more lyrics than that, but for a large portion of the song, that's kind of all you'll hear.
Thank you for purchasing books on tape. You have chosen the Holy Bible, as read by Tommy Chong.
All right, so then Jesus talked up real good. But it's this album is very strange, but also now let's actually talk about the music.
Yes, the music is the thing.
Music is the thing. Like, there's so much stuff that's interesting and kind of intriguing about how it was made, but really the end product is, I think, something to be experienced for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Like, it is a really good riff. If you listen to the first couple minutes of the song and go, I don't like that riff, well, bad news.
You're about
buddy.
to have a terrible hour.
You're going to have a bad next 55 minutes if you made it in that far.
Right.
It is effectively the same riff for the entire hour.
Yes.
With obviously many different variations and changes. Things get added, things get taken away. Many different permutations of this riff, and a couple really awesome guitar solos by Matt Pike mixed in there as well. But ultimately, the structure of it is kind of the same riff for the entire duration. And it's almost an experiment on how can we keep this riff interesting.
And they do.
They do.
Yeah.
They definitely do. There is part of me that regrets. I guess regret is not the right word. There is part of me that is saddened, I guess, by the fact that ultimately most of what we have are recording, things cobbled together from recordings that were discarded. Like, I don't know how the various remixes of this that have been put out were made necessarily. The guitar tone is great. The bass tone is godly. The drums are not particularly good. The cymbals, I think, are nice and clear, but at least on the version that I listened to, which was the 2022 remix and remaster, the drums kind of sucked.
Yeah.
They were really fuzzy, I guess is how I would describe them, but not like guitar fuzz. Like, oh, that's a low quality recording.
I listened to it on reel to reel.
And how was that?
It's kind of hissy. It was a bit.
Well, I think that's just a artifact of the medium rather than the recording.
I also listened to the 2022 remaster.
Yeah. Like the drums are not like bad enough to sour the experience, but it's compared to the quality of the guitar and the bass, it was a little distracting at times. I listened to a little bit of it while I was at work today, and that was, in my earbuds and my headphones, which it's hard to escape. If there's something that sounds a little bit off for an album that is as long as this is, and that is always as consistent as it is with its sound profile, that could be a real problem. But when I got home, I listened to it through my speakers in my living room, and it was much less of an issue in that context. This is one of those albums that I would love to have like a really good, really powerful sound system and just crank it up real high. Like that would be, I think that might be as close to transcendence as one can get musically. Just cranking it up really, really high and just letting the rumbles hit you.
I might do that on the way home.
Just give that a shot. That and also Empress Rising by Monolord.
Sure.
But just great tone. Al's bass playing is like, okay, Matt Pike is an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it comes to like what they would do later, like High on Fire is, I think, a much more high profile band than Om or Ohm.
I believe.
It's spelled OM. Om is also a lot weirder than High on Fire, but like I don't know. I think in the proper circles, he is as well regarded as he ought to be.
Yeah.
But I think in general, I think when people talk about like really good metal bass players, he should always be included in any conversation about fantastic metal bassists.
Al Cisneros. Exactly.
I've been avoiding saying his last name because I feel like I'm always saying it wrong.
Al Cicero.
Cicero?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't it?
No, it's like CIS. I can have the page here. CISNEROS.
Oh, it is Cisneros. Yeah,
Cisneros.
yeah. Cisneros, right?
Cisneros.
Al Cisneros.
But
You want to call him Grant?
yeah, I want to call him Grant. I want to call him Steve for some reason.
Yeah.
But
Cisneros. Yeah, El Cisneros.
now it's starting to sound like a town in Southern California.
Yeah. We're gonna go down, move to El Cisneros.
Here's real warm there.
It's a bedroom community of San Jose.
You know the Southern California accent. Well, I guess it is someone who's moving there, but also
right. But also there is this weird pervasive, like a Southern, like
there's a twang.
It's not like this. It's just like sometimes they do kind of sound like this, but it's usually somebody who's smoking a filterless cigarette, holding her baby and nursing, and currently a little drunk.
No matter where you are in the country, people who fit that description will probably sound a little bit like that.
Yeah, she's got, where are you from? I'm from L.A. This is where I'm originally from.
Really?
Really?
How do you have that accent? But
yeah,
what else is to be said about Dopesmoker?
What's my favorite song?
Yeah, what's your favorite? Yeah, what's your favorite song on Dopesmoker?
Dopesmoker.
Oh wow, crazy!
It was you.
I was going to ask, had you listened to this before? Because I know, like, when we became friends and started talking about music and whatnot, this eventually came up.
I have listened to it. I hadn't listened to it this thoroughly before because it's one of those things where at the time I started to enjoy music by sleep.
Yeah.
I was younger and being more chemically adventurous.
I see.
And so this is one of those things. It's a 63-minute long song.
Yeah.
I may not have tackled it all the way every time. So
perhaps.
But this time I'm in a car.
And you are 50 years old.
I'm 50 years old, and I was, I was really high on some premium caffeine.
Sure.
But yeah, it's
premium caffeine.
Premium.
Wow.
As we discussed, I am 50. I'll be dead soon. Nothing of that fucking swill for me.
I mean, because premium usually just I guess premium is. I'm getting my term. Yeah, it has multiple definitions. Yeah. I was thinking of premium as in like a version of a service that you pay for. It's like, well, that's any coffee that isn't free is premium, but also
a premium.
The other definition is also just something that is better than the normal version.
Right. As people would shorten it just to primo.
Or if you are in the cyberpunk universe, preem.
Preem.
It's just preem. That's some preem shit, Choom.
Some preem shit, Choom.
I think there have definitely been sometimes on the internet there will be times where I will for some goddamn reason, but I think cyberpunk has actually inserted like choom into people's vocabularies.
Is that like dude or whatever?
It's like friend or like homie, buddy, essentially. Yeah, homie. Because the game was pretty popular, and then there was a pretty popular anime, set in the same universe that came out. And of course, the tabletop game has been around for a long time.
I've played that.
And I think I feel like I've seen the word just appear in the wild and was like, oh shit. It's kind of fun to say.
It is. What up, Choom?
What's up, Choom? How you doing? Like, I don't know. It's fun. You know what else is fun? Dopesmoker by Sleep.
Yeah. Smoking dope is fun.
Sure. You heard it here first, kids.
Do drugs.
Do drugs. Kill everyone now. Filth are my politics. Filth is my life.
Violence makes me come.
I was thinking of Divine.
Yeah.
Did she say that?
Yeah, right in that same speech.
In that rant?
Yeah.
I didn't remember that part. I am currently referencing.
And here's the thing. I didn't remember that part either until I showed it to my 12-year-old.
Why did you show?
Because I'd forgotten
anything from Pink Flamingos.
I figured maybe that tiny section was going to be entertaining.
Sure.
And then he said that. I'm like, you know what? Someday, watch this movie.
Fucking Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Pink Flamingos has to be in the Library of Congress, right?
I'm sure it is.
It has to be.
I think it's just Pink Flamingo singular, isn't it?
Is it? Is it singular? It might be.
Did you see what I just did?
Were you looking for your glasses?
Yeah, I was searching my shirt right now. For my glasses that are on my face.
We started talking about John Waters now.
We did.
But we were referencing the John Waters film Pink Flamingo or Goes. I don't know.
Oh no, you're right. It's plural.
It's plural.
It is
okay.
Pink Flamingo.
I felt like that sounded right, but
1972.
Yeah. Which is a very weird movie, and this is a very weird album.
Yeah.
So it's got a 94% on Metacritic.
Because it's great.
It's considered a classic of the genre for very good reason. For very good reason. Yeah. I think. And it was critically acclaimed when versions of it came out. Like when the first bootlegs became available and like reviewers like could get their hands on like, oh shit, that thing that Sleep didn't get to make came out. There's a bootleg of it out. Let's listen to that. And even at the time, people were like, this is going to be legendary. And they were right. It has continued to be.
That got to be this is going to be legend. Wait for it for 63 minutes. Dairy. There you go.
But yeah, 94% on Metacritic, which I think it deserves.
Yeah.
I believe it does. So, what medal do you bestow upon Dopesmoker, like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
This belongs in a museum.
Belongs in a museum. Belongs in a museum.
I give this a gold.
Yeah, this is absolutely a gold, for sure. It's an album that I find myself not particularly in the mood for at any particular time. Like, I think it's not something that I'm going to put on just because. Like, the times I have listened to it, I've mostly enjoyed it. Although I think the first time I tried to make myself listen to all of it, I was on the ride back from the Renaissance Fair, and I had a pretty bad headache because I drank too much. I drank too much mead. And so I was like trying to take a nap while also listening to this. And so that kind of hurt the experience quite a bit. But since then, I have listened to it in more comfortable settings.
Your session of listenership to the band Sleep was interrupted by
Sleep. Times I have listened to it since then, I've found more enjoyable.
Right.
And I had a good time with it today. It's weird, though. A weird artifact of my mind is that, like, this album, which is like, oh, this album about smoking dope and stuff and weird lyrics and fun riff. And I'm like, the thing that's like this that my brain wants more often is like, give me the most depressing fucking thing I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, Mirror Reaper by Bell Witch,
right?
Which is even longer. And it's even longer, but it's weirdly more diverse and like dynamic than this.
Even though there's less band members.
There's one less band member.
Right.
Technically, there's three, but Eric Mogridge was not officially a member of the band at the time. He was considered a guest vocalist for the last third of the song. But yeah, my brain's like, no, give me Mirror Reaper. I want the depressing shit. But next week, what do you want me to listen to?
Well, this week we discussed a whole lot of Marajahuni.
Okay, yeah.
We did. So I figured maybe it's some sort of a almost counterpoint. Next week we're going to talk about beer.
Okay.
And wind the clock back to 1989.
All right.
And discuss one of the big four of Germany's albums.
Okay.
It's Hair of the Dog by Tankard.
Okay. Hair of the Dog by Tankard.
Yeah.
All right. And it's Tankard, not Tankred.
No, it's Tankard, like the...
Okay, like the drink. Because there is like an old German name called that's Tankred. It's a name in Old High German, which confused the fuck out of me when I saw it for the first time.
But
because it's the name would come up in the same context as a tankard, because it's some medieval shit.
Sure. But these guys sing a lot about beer. Yeah. So awesome. Tankard is...
All right, cool. Cool. We'll talk about beer next time. We're on a substance abuse kick.
Week 3, heroin.
Here's an album all about crystal meth.
That's a thing.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure we could find one.
Yeah, we'd have to sift through a bunch.
It would be so difficult, I'm sure. But until you hear from us next week, or whenever it is you might hear from us again, why don't you go ahead and follow us on Facebook or the website formerly known as Twitter, or just go ahead and subscribe to our feed on whatever device you're using to listen to us right now, or whatever service. The device doesn't really matter. The service is what matters. Get that through your head.
The provider.
The service provider.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.